one of the things that's very close to our hearts in our relationship when it comes to money is a concept called tithing. Tithing essentially is a concept which us as Christians, we give a portion of our money to the church that we belong to. And that's literally every single month. And that's something that we believe.
Yeah.
What we're going to talk to you today about is just a candid conversation just around, our journey and how this idea, but also this action of tithing has actually massively changed our lives and our finances in a huge way. And we just wanted to share that with you as an encouragement for those of you who are, thinking about this and wanting to do this. And hopefully this will be, an encouraging word for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start off by kind of sharing with you, first of all, I guess our money journey, our story from that when we first got married. So when we started our relationship, honestly, we were living paycheck to paycheck. We got
and
paid.
I wasn't working initially.
And you were not working.
Yeah.
Exactly. You were not working. I was working. One salary, looking after the whole house. Not enough, by the way. Like, it wasn't like I was earning a lot of money, number one. And it also wasn't like you were working by choice. You were a real graduate.
Just finished uni, graduated, moved to a new city. Yeah.
A lot of changes. Hard to find a job as well when you're a graduate and all the rest of it. So we're finding ourselves in this position. So from a financial perspective, we live paycheck to paycheck, and credit cards, overdrafts were like the norm for us.
Yeah.
And then after that, we found ourselves kind of building a little bit of debt and all the rest of it. We paid that off eventually. But during all of that journey, what we were doing was tithing.
Yeah.
We were still giving a portion of our money to our church every single month, every single paycheck, despite, not having enough, so to speak. We'll come to that in a minute.
But I think the reason why we were still doing that, it goes back to our values and who we are. True,
but at the time, if we're being honest, it kind of was our values, but we'd never questioned it.
Yeah, no, never.
We'd never questioned it. It was just how we were raised.
Yeah,
we're just
you pay tithe every month. Okay, then cool.
Yeah. It's a thing you do, and so I feel like we got to a stage where we started to think to ourselves, is this something that's like we're meant to do this, or were we taught wrong? You start to kind of really question the things that you were taught growing up, right? And we started to be a bit
why are we doing this?
What are we actually doing this for, And I think part of the reason was because, and maybe I speak for myself, I think I was tithing out of fear. I'll be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people kind of throw that verse, that Malachi chapter 3 verse. You all know that verse, that curse, you be cursed with the curse verse. I'm like...
No, but I also think...
I don't want to be cursed, so...
I was very much the same as you. Not that I didn't want to tithe, right? But I was doing it. And I was doing it simply because in the church that we're going to, there was very much if you don't tithe, do you know what I mean? What you just said. It was a scaremongering thing where you were scared into doing it.
Or scared to not do it.
To not do it.
If you don't do it, my goodness.
And I think that's what led us to question it, because you then okay, what am I doing and why am I doing it? I think I lacked the understanding of why I needed to tithe.
Right.
And why I was really doing it.
I started to question it, particularly that kind of mindset, because when you look at 2 Corinthians 9, by the way, this old Bible verse we're throwing out there, but 2 Corinthians 9 talks about God loves a generous, cheerful giver. And I'm I am not cheerfully tithing. I'm just going to be straight up. This is not a cheerful thing that I'm doing. So there's a conflict here. In one sense, cheerful giving, but in another sense, if you don't tithe, tithe kind of thing. So I was like, actually, let's rethink this. So we went through a period of time where we then started to really ask the hard questions. The kind of questions that are scary to ask, that may get you, I don't know, treated some kind of way by Christians.
Where people are you really a Christian? The way you're asking those questions. But I feel like we needed that.
Oh, you need it.
Because had we not asked those questions, we probably would have stopped tithing. Proper, and just been no, we're not doing it.
Yeah, forget it. Literal questions okay, first of all, is the tithe really a thing for the New Testament Christian believer? Number two, is why do we tithe to a church?
Yeah, why can't I just take the 10% and just give it to a charity?
Something else,
or someone that needs it, or there's a lot of causes that we are seeing now where I could literally just give the money.
And because if we're being honest here, some churches, you just have to think twice. You're just a bit like, how are they using their money? You know, I'm not confidently comfortable with giving my money there, kind of thing. So then you end up thinking to yourself, yeah, let's move somewhere else. And all these kinds of questions we start asking, and I think that journey took us to a path of then reevaluating our values.
Yeah.
Then really looking at, okay, what is it that we really stand for? What is it that we really believe in?
Yeah.
And the both of us came to a conclusion that at the end of the day, giving is still a big part of our values,
yeah.
and it's still a big part of the legacy that we want to leave from a financial perspective. No, we don't believe that everything we have and earn in life is all for personal consumption.
Right.
Like, that's not a value that we have at all. And so because of that, we still decided that no, giving still plays a big part in us. And therefore, if we're financially speaking, we want to uphold that. So I think at that point, it shifted from I'm tithing out of like, I don't want to be cursed with a curse kind of situation, to like I'm tithing because I actually want to.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's a very big difference. And people could argue and kind of say, well, you have to, so you don't have the luxury of wanting it. But like, I feel like I needed that. I needed that moment to be like, okay, no, let me really put my heart into this.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to talk now, just really quickly, are like 3 reasons why we want to do it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? And the 3 reasons why we wanted to do this. And we kind of wrote this down because like, it's just a conversation in here at this point. Just having a chat. The first thing, like when we get to this stage of like, okay, we want to tithe, is that we see tithe as a way to bless the ministry that we are part of, or the church that we belong to, and kind of be part of the vision of that church. Now, that sounds like, you know, that for us that then quashed that question of why do we tithe to a church? Right. It was our way of thinking to ourselves, you know, from a financial perspective, we are actually investing back into the church that invests into us on a weekly basis. Every Sunday and everything that the church puts on is for our benefit and it's for our good. And tithing is just one way that we can kind of then give back to that vision of the church.
True. And I feel like, being completely honest, the church that we do go to now, I feel like they go above and beyond. So then we were thinking about tithing, to me, it didn't even, I wasn't thinking twice about it anymore, because I saw how they are with the community. I was seeing them really active in the community, helping people out and stuff like that. Then I was just like, do you know what? I have a really good feeling about this. Like, I'm no longer questioning it. I don't feel like I'm scaremongered into it anymore, because now I'm doing it with understanding. I understand why I'm doing it, and I'm seeing the fruits of it with the church that we go to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the first reason. The second reason was that you know, we prayed over our finances every month, and when we put a budget together as well, we prayed about it. So basically, every time we tithed, we prayed.
Yeah.
And the prayer wasn't like, God bless us or whatever. It was just simply like, you know what, God, we're giving this in faith. But then we used it as an opportunity to then say, right, with this money that we have left, give us the wisdom.
Yeah.
To know what to do with it. Give us the wisdom to make it like, to make the most of it, to make best use of it. And all of a sudden, we started to like become, I guess, better managers of our finances.
Absolutely.
That's probably the best way I can put it. Like, all of a sudden, we started to really like have a switched on like approach when it comes to, right, okay, what's our budget looking like? Where's our money going? What are we doing with our finances? And, you know, this act of tithing, number one, was very intentional, but then it made us be even more intentional with what we had left.
Absolutely. And I also feel like once I knew why I was tithing and we were then tithing, I was then not scared to tithe. Do you know what I mean? Like, even the fact, like, I just didn't like holding on to the money like that. I was now free to then tithe and give and not feel like I was controlled by money. And I feel like, having gone through COVID and going through like that tough time where I remember we went through a phase where people were losing jobs left, right and centre. And you'd be like, am I going to be next? Like, what's going on here? But even during that time, during COVID, that was the time where I think we doubled down and we're like, no, we're just going to be faithful. When it comes to money, we're going to be faithful, and we're not going to withhold simply because COVID's going on and we're scared about what's going on. But we trust that, and we're faith that with this, even as we give, like, God's got us, like, God's got our back. What is it to give God his 10%? You know what I mean? It's just 10% at the end of the day.
Yeah. And the third thing that, you know, kind of led us to kind of be like, okay, we want to do this. I feel like it kind of speaks to the legacy element of it, meaning that we wanted to have some kind of financial impact that goes beyond, I guess, buying a house for ourselves and like buying a car, wearing clothes, that kind of thing. Like, we wanted something that's felt a bit more like, this is a legacy that we're building here, that we're putting towards. And I feel like church and the movement of God and all the rest of it is a great place to have that connection with, in that sense. Obviously, like, it's not necessarily that we are saying, just because I tithe, that's like my investment to the church. It just simply means, I've tithed, but I've got something I can point to outside of my personal life that I can say, you know what, I was really instrumental, or I played a part in this thing coming to life. And it's really powerful when you then start to see churches being able to do things for the community. So one example that we saw was at the church that we're part of. They were doing a lot of things for the actual local communities, the local charities, homeless people in the area, and like really doing things for them. And it's like being able to then see that come to life, because from linking it back to our giving, that was super powerful.
And I feel like it's such a good feeling. Like, for me, I get such a good feeling when I see other people being helped. I love helping people. Like, if I can help everyone, I would, type of thing. But there's a certain feeling that you get when like, I've actually helped this person, and they'll probably sleep better tonight, or their life is changed in a certain way. And I wasn't selfish with my money. I just gave it to someone else to sort of, at least feel good about themselves as well. Like, I feel like that plays a huge part for me, and that's why I continue with tithing.
Right. So those are kind of the three reasons that kind of led to us kind of being like, okay, we want to do this thing. Like, we don't want to like not do anything here. But then here are the three ways that we started to see, I guess, things shift for us. Like, the way tithing has then started to really change tangible things in our lives. So the first thing I've got down is that we just actually, fun enough, we became more generous. That's the first thing I'd say. It feels like when we started to tithe and open up, the heart to be like, yeah, we want to do this, it felt like our hearts just expanded and boomed even more to be like, we really want to be generous. Like, it's not like a small thing, like, oh, you know what, I'm happy putting £150 in there or whatever. Like, it's now getting to a stage where you're like, no, like, man, if I could do 1,500, like, I would, kind of thing. Like, you almost have this desire to be more generous, and I feel like I can definitely point that back to the tithe, for sure.
I also feel like in life, I don't know if you've said this already, but in life I don't feel like I'm called to just earn the money that I earn and enjoy it for myself. I also feel like I am blessed to bless others. I feel like our life is a blessing. Like, when I look at where we were like 8 years ago and first got married to where we are now, I can truly say we are blessed. But now that I am blessed, I also believe that, it's my calling, or it's my responsibility to also then be a blessing to other people that are probably not where I am, or that are probably wanting to get further in life than where they are at the moment. But that goes back to being generous, be a blessing to other people. Like,
absolutely,
it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. The second thing that's happened is that we worry less about our money. Like it's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable.
You don't really think about...
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't link tithing to worrying less. But I'm telling you, like, yeah, fair enough, you have less, and like, being practical, you've given money, so you think to yourself, well, I have less. But like, you actually don't worry about it. It's this really incredible exchange of like, we genuinely just don't have a financial burden. And I can't really say any more than that, because like, that kind of says enough. But like, we don't worry about money anymore. Obviously, yes, we're still intentional. Yes, we still look at our finances, but we don't worry about it. We don't stress about it. We don't kind of have sleepless nights about it. That doesn't mean we don't have money problems, by the way. We do, but we just don't worry about it. That's so beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
I think for me, it goes back to that whole, at the end of the day, it's giving God back his 10%. And I've still got the 90, but God will move. Like, in an amazing way. Like, he will take care of me. It's just honouring what he's asked for, and he'll take care of me.
Talking about God moving, though, the third thing that we've started to realise, all of a sudden, remember, we're living paycheck to paycheck and all the rest of it, we start to realise sometimes, in fact, actually, many, many times, we have some money left over at the end of the month. Before, like, literally, the day before you get paid, we're looking at accounts thinking, wait,
Like, what's going on?
Let me just sit here, you know. Like, we genuinely thought
we do that quite a lot.
We didn't have any money left, but like, we're just looking at it thinking, oh, okay. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that's never happened pre-tithe for us.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. I feel like that's one thing I can also tangibly point back to tithe. And I'm not saying, you know, this happens for everybody, but I'm just saying this is our story.
Yeah.
You know, this is what's happened with us. Like, we just have some money left over at the end of the month instead of the other way around, which was the norm of, like, the week before payday was
like, are we just gonna have to use beans and toast
or something else, my God.
Life.
So that's our story. We just wanted to share that. I think we can kind of wrap it up here, because I feel like this is a big topic, and we can talk about this in many different ways and many different things. But one thing that we wanted to point out today is that, you know, just to kind of encourage some of you listening and watching to this and saying, if this has been in your heart as well, especially those of you in a relationship, and you're a couple and you're kind of thinking, you know, these are our values in our relationship, and you're thinking about it and you're kind of thinking, yeah, we want to do this, but we don't know, you know, there's all this fear mongering, or there's all this unknowns and all the rest of it. You know, we just encourage you to go ahead and do it. This is not like we're not forcing you to do it. That's not our heart here.
Yeah.
And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, there's nothing we can do or say about that. But what we are trying to do here is just encourage those of you who are genuinely, you know, thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think I'd also just add, like, just take a minute to understand why you are doing it for yourself, especially if you're coming from the sort of background where maybe you have scaremongered into doing it, because you'll then question, why am I doing this? You don't want to do it, like you say, you want to give generously. You don't want to do it from a place of, oh, I don't really want to do it, but I'm forced to.
Exactly.
Take a minute, even if it's taking a month, take some time to really read into it.
Yeah.
Like, try and understand why you were doing it. Because I feel like lack of understanding and lack of knowledge is...
People perish.
People perish because of it. But if you actually take the time to understand why you're doing, I think you would do it so freely.
You will.
When you do it, you will just do it so freely because you understand why you're doing it.
So let us know in the comments, why do you do it? But also, why do you not do it if you don't? We'd be interested to know as well, you know, your thoughts around that. But hopefully this has been an encouragement and a blessing to some of you. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.